Okay, Dani, thanks for bringing the Philadelphia snow into Denver. Appreciate it.
Oh, well, of course. I mean, of course, what would happen is I land here and then it's 80 degrees there. So
Yeah,
I'm just bringing the
you
greens.
stiffed me from
Sorry.
Cabo, and then I land, and you brought
I'm
all
shocked that
this
you came back,
nice weather
but
in.
You came back for a good reason, because we have such a great guest today. This is going to be an incredible episode. But we've been planning this. We were talking about this. Our guest and I were talking about this earlier. This has been on the calendar for about a year now.
Has it been that long?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we started the conversations about a year ago, and then we booked it officially in like September of 2025.
So I'm excited. Who's the guest?
I'm gonna let
The
you.
suspense is killing me.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna let you.
Really?
Introduce. Yeah, because you always let me introduce. Like, you're excited about this, and so you were even a little nervous. I have to put this on the table, because we were walking in today, and John stopped at the door and he looks at me and goes, "Oh my God!" I was like, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "No." He's like, "I'm a little nervous," and I was like, "You're nervous? You never get nervous." And he was like, "Yeah, well, because
It's Mark Lawrence.
It's Mark Lawrence from Spot
Hero, founder of Spot Hero.
CEO and founder, right? Founder and CEO.
2011. Oh, man.
So
I've got a lot of questions. Are you ready?
Ready. Here we go.
Super excited
Here we go.
to have you. Thank you for making the journey. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us. And
Sorry about our Denver.
I mean, he's from Chicago. I mean, what was the weather? Did you come from Chicago, or did you come from
used
Miami?
To snow.
Yeah.
Born and raised in Chicago, used to the snow.
I was gonna say, I mean, like, this is nothing. This is this kind of snow to you is probably like heaven.
I know,
it's
but
not
it's
windy,
like
it's
Mother's
not
Day
below.
weekend, and we have 10 inches of snow.
I know, I get it. Look,
and we
I'm
didn't
just-
get shit all year. So.
I'm trying to make the trip, his trip more enjoyable. Jeez.
I am excited to be here.
All right.
Thank you for being here.
So, and I believe this is like an exclusive too. Like, this is
I mean, I wouldn't say
the big news.
I wouldn't say it's an exclusive, but it is the first, right?
It is the first.
It is the first. After the
Which
big
is
news,
an
which we'll get
exclusive,
to.
right? Yeah.
We'll get to. But Mark, thank you again for being here. We really, really, really appreciate it. Welcome to Denver. Welcome to Mile High City. Tell us a little bit about. We want our guests here. Who are you? What do you do? And just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So you founded Spot Hero in 2011. So kind of start out how you got into parking and what the story is behind Spot Hero.
Well, it started with getting too many parking tickets, about $5,000 worth. And we actually were founded in October of 2010. We launched in 2011.
Okay.
And we launched in Wrigleyville with a single parking spot, with the idea that there was not enough parking and we needed to bring all of this new parking to market.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So one parking spot. How did the one parking spot go?
Well, we didn't really have many people using the website, so
right.
It didn't sell a lot. But we've sold the first spot in July of 2011.
Do you still have that reservation?
I mean, I know where the spot is. We don't have that spot. We called it Brett's spot. Brett Jacoby. He was the spot.
You had some co-founders, Jeremy Smith and Larry Kiss, right?
Yes.
Okay, so before we dive into that, I want to know though, like, how did you come up with the concept of Spot Hero? I know it was after getting one too many parking tickets. But what was like, how did you get together with your co-founders to be like, guys, this is what we need to do, and this is what I think is going to work? Because you were, before you decided to start that, you were at Bank of America, correct?
Correct.
You were a financial
financial
analyst.
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
Right.
Okay.
But I was laid off.
All right.
So I was laid off.
Cool.
It was 2008, 2009.
Oh, yeah, the collapse.
Yeah.
And then you racked up a bunch of parking tickets, and then you got together with your co-founders and essentially were like...
Did you guys all work together?
Well, we didn't work together. Jeremy and I were roommates. Larry and I, we had met, just through the Chicago tech community at the time. But the idea was parking's a problem. Clearly, we're getting parking tickets that we shouldn't. We're getting too many of them. It wasn't just me. Jeremy also got parking tickets as well. But the idea was if it was easier to park, then maybe we wouldn't get parking tickets.
How are you like, this is what it's going to be?
Well, it's funny because when we were talking about the name, we were debating like what the name should be. And at the time, the top name that I wanted it to be was actually Park Shark. And it was unavailable. Someone else had bought the domain, which I'm very thankful that whoever that was owned the domain, because we would be called Park Shark. And I actually prefer Spot Hero way more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's more Avenger-esque than Park Shark's kind of a negative connotation, right? I mean,
At the time, it felt
good.
nice. It
Yeah.
felt good. It was like this is a very cool name.
So whoever owned Park Shark, thanks.
Thank you.
I'm going to have to Google that after this and see if it's still active.
It was
an
probably
active
Stan
domain.
Wolfson with Clancy. He just buys up every
Park Shark.
domain he can. Yeah. Anyway.
So Spot Hero, great name, because it's like everyone who purchases on Spot Hero has clearly a spot.
Parking spot and superhero.
Yeah, it's
I love that.
it's awesome. So you guys, you didn't hire like a firm to come up with concepts.
No.
You just did it yourself.
Yeah, no,
That's great.
No, come up with a firm. I mean, our first logo was 99 designs. And
Interesting.
so we paid $99 to get a logo,
Okay.
and then our biggest purchase after that was balsamic mock-ups. We debated, do we spend the $75 on this software or not? So no, we definitely didn't hire a firm.
I mean, they had $5,000 in parking tickets to pay.
Yeah, so
so
they started out at a negative.
did you pay your parking tickets? Or were you able to?
Yes, they've
You
been
did?
paid. They've been paid.
I always ask because I think like now I kind of advise people on how to get out of their parking tickets because,
Oh, thanks, Danny.
well, sorry.
About 15 years too late.
Yeah, sorry. I know. I mean, only 10 years in
We
the
want
business.
people
I
to
would have.
pay
I would
their
have loved to
parking
advise
tickets,
then.
Damn it.
Well, I mean, no, because I think that's not to get off track here or anything, but like I think that a lot of like, especially municipalities, like can. There's always a way to get out of your parking violation. Your parking.
So like,
sorry.
So so now you guys are running along. You got the name Spot Hero. You got your one space. I think from 2011 to 2014, you guys were kind of just focused on events in Chicago. Is that correct?
We started with events, but we expanded actually and spent more time on just the transient parking.
Right.
So most of our competitors were really only events. And while we started with Wrigley Field, it wasn't just events at Wrigley. It was anytime. So it was both event and transient parking. And that was different because pretty much everyone else at the time, they were only doing events.
So conceptually, I remember thinking about what a fascinating concept, because conceptually you guys were like a virtual parking operator. Like those were your clients. You were collecting revenue from parking operators, lots, garages, and marketing got really, I mean, you guys did a lot of marketing and it got really good. Right?
Yeah. I mean, for us, like I always looked at us as a marketing company.
Right.
Versus like a virtual parking operator. I mean, there's so many things with parking operations that are just so difficult that, especially at the time, I had no idea. Like all of the things since that I've learned about parking, I definitely, you could talk to some of the folks that are still in parking that we worked with in 2011, 2012, 2013, and they'll tell you how little I knew about
Right.
parking. Yeah.
And so you learned by fire, right?
Yes.
I mean, I remember driving to Denver and hearing a Spot Hero commercial on the radio, which a lot of times you don't hear anything about parking on like TV commercials and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what date that was, but I think it was like 2016. But like driving to work, hearing a Spot Hero commercial on the radio in Denver was kind of cool.
Well, it was cool, but it also worked. And what was funny is, we would raise money in our fundraising rounds, and we would be in Silicon Valley, and we would talk about radio as a channel. And they'd say online radio. We'd say, no, terrestrial radio. We'd just get blank stares. But the reality is, think about it. You're stuck in traffic. You're driving somewhere. You're listening to the radio. Where are you going to park?
Right.
So radio was great.
And then you had Nicole Wiley up on a billboard in Chicago, which I still talk about with her. It was like a huge billboard.
Yeah, she showed us a picture of it.
Yeah. So you managed to grow from a space.
Mm-hmm.
You're paying $75 here and there, worried about that. Somewhere along the lines, where did you really start scaling? Was it that?
Well, I remember going door to door to find, more than one space. We actually got to 50 spaces, which felt like a really big milestone. So the milestones for us at the time were, we have 50 spaces. This is amazing. The next milestone was we sold double-digit spots in a month because we were like 1, 5, right? When we sold 11 spots in a single month, like that was a big milestone for us. And then it was another milestone when we sold 11 spots in a day. That was big for us.
Oh yeah.
Wow. So you had to like really pinch yourself at one point in like 2019. Like, wow. Like your 50 spaces were probably hundreds, thousands of spaces, right?
Oh, way more in 2019. Yeah.
Before we get into the expansion though, like I do want to pick your brain on something that like we kind of chatted about earlier, where when you first started out, you were only in Chicago and you wanted to stay in Chicago. You wanted to focus in Chicago. You were not looking to expand. And like I had said earlier, like I read an article where you stated that saying no is just as important as saying yes, right? And people were wanting you to expand out of your bubble, and you were like, nope, we want to get it down. We want everything right before we start taking this to other markets. Versus like your competitors who were out there, they were in multiple markets, but you wanted to make sure that everything was the operations were right, the economics were right. You were getting everything down to a point. Explain a little bit about that and like your decision to say no when you could have said yes to being in markets across the U.S. Yeah. And then your thought process to finally when you got to the point of expanding outside of Chicago.
There was a lot of pressure to expand to other cities. And that came from investors, that came from our parking partners. Like, hey, you're doing this works. Why can't we do it in other places? We're all also called a one-hit wonder. Ask Harlan Karp. He was like, one-hit wonder Mark. I'm like, he was joking. But then there were other people that did it and that was not a joke. So, kind of was like, I had to ask myself, are we making a mistake at the time? Because, everybody's doing it. Everybody's going to all these different cities. But the reality is, so many of our competitors, many of which don't exist anymore, and those that do, there's a number that still do, they were spread thin. A bunch of people had raised way more money than us, but they were in so many cities that they were spread thin, and we were able to focus on, the partners we worked with, the operations, making things work for drivers, right? Like all the things related to parking, all the nuances. We didn't have to worry about all these cities. We were able to focus on one city and get it right. And so Chicago was our first market. We did a bit of an expansion to Milwaukee, which is kind of funny. When we were talking to some of our investors, they're like, why are you not in San Francisco? And we're like, well, we're going to Milwaukee. They're like, all right, where are you going after that? We're like, we're going to Washington, D.C. And it wasn't actually until about 2015 that we launched in San Francisco, which was 5 years after we founded the company.
How did you choose your markets? Like, what was the thought process behind your, like, going from Chicago to Milwaukee to DC and then San Francisco being your fourth?
I mean, I don't know if it was like we didn't have this like perfect strategy, right? A lot of the parking companies we worked with in Chicago also worked
Makes sense.
in Milwaukee.
Oh yeah.
Got it. Yep. You followed your clients essentially and your customers.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. And so like that was also a lot easier. I could drive to Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting too, because at the time we didn't have an app. It was a website and you had to print out a piece of paper and put it on the dash. And I remember another milestone for me was when I was in Milwaukee and I saw a car parked at a service lot with a printed Spot Hero reservation on the dash. I was like, wow, like it felt like we'd really hit it. Like we've expanded to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And I could see it like, and then obviously like we moved away from printouts. That was actually that was really difficult because the parking industry was all about paper, and really wanted the paper. And so it took years for us to move away from the printed the printouts.
Printed paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being on the operator side today, people still love their printed spots. I think in a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Like at a lot of our operations, and depending on the city, we get a lot of printed Spot Hero passes.
They still print them out?
They still print them out.
Okay, but the good thing is they're not required to print them out.
Right. They're not required, but I
right.
think that like people like having something physical, right? Where it's like we gave them the option to go digital, and some
Right.
people still like having something physical.
Of course, there's going to be those that like something
Yeah.
physical. And I know a lot of people in parking still like the paper. But for us to reduce friction for parkers, to require like a printed,
Oh,
like
yeah.
like just think about, right, like all of us, we're in parking. So it's so easy to be like, well, the reason we need the paper is because of revenue control or this
Right.
enforcement that. But just imagine yourself as like a person. All the things that you do on an app that imagine if it was like you can't do this unless you go to a printer and print something out.
Which was how it started, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
So you launched the mobile app didn't come till later, right? It was just a website that you went to,
Right.
and then like 2014, you launched the mobile app, right?
Well,
Somewhere
we
in
were
between.
also there were a number of different folks that had parking websites, including us. But we were the first to iOS and we were the first to Android. And Larry actually designed and built our first iOS app. And now we have an iOS team. But Larry Kiss, he built our first iOS app, and that was another awesome milestone.
Yeah, and so, do you think was it your finance background that you think? I mean, tell me about obviously when all this is going on and you're coming up with these great names and you're hitting these milestones at the same time you're getting funding from, I would imagine, equity groups or.
Well, we didn't actually get funding until 2 years after we
2 years
started.
after.
So, like now it's interesting because like, a lot of people will approach me and say, hey, I'm starting a company. How do I raise money? And I'm like, part of me wants to say like, well, I didn't even know what venture capital was or raising money when we started Spot Hero. It didn't come, for 2 years. And the first money we raised was $50,000 from Accelerate Labs.
Interesting.
And it was funny because I remember, like at the time, I'm like, "Wow, we
It's
did
not
it!
a lot of-
We did it!
I know.
We got $50,000. We have
It's my
done
expense report. No, I'm kidding. No, but I mean, so what was that like when you raised the 50,000, and then obviously you raised money after that? Did you have good, like, investors that let you guys be creative, let you do your thing, or was it a nightmare in some cases, or what was it like? I mean, were you able to be a free bird?
We would have to maybe have an offline conversation of what your definition of freebird is. But I would say we had really great investors, and we met so many amazing people through the Accelerate Labs program. Ultimately, it became called Techstars Chicago, but like that was where we just got like just so many people. Like,
So was Accelerator Lab, was that like a group of like angel investor types that heard pitches and ideas and said,
something like that.
This is a great concept.
Yeah.
We're going to give you money. And
It was a little bit more formalized where they pick, 8 to 10 companies a year to be a part of like a program that they called an accelerator. And so we did the program, then there was a demo day, and that led us to, after demo day, to raise our first seed round.
in going through all that, I mean, I've heard horror stories from some people, and I like how you said, we had really good investors, and I lucky to be able to say that too. Just, you have an idea and you're able to, as I call free bird, but you have to operate within a constraint, but people allowing you to be yourself and come up with your ideas and be able to act on those ideas and operationally not get too involved. And is that kind of your experience along the way, or?
There are definitely investors that I prefer over other investors, right? And then there's also investors that were, extremely annoying at certain points, but then you realize like there were benefits later
Right.
when you look back. So, it's been a 15-year journey. It's hard to pinpoint like one specific thing over the other, but we've had an incredible amount of investors that like over the years have been really, really helpful.
So you launch the mobile app, which is a big deal. You start getting away from the paper. Tell us about that. I mean, how was that?
Well, there was a lot of resistance, John. There was a lot of resistance.
From like your clients and parking operators?
Well,
and,
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't resistance from parkers. Like no one was like, you know what?
I want the paper.
I want the paper.
I want to be burdened with printing this thing out.
Um,
I remember because we had printouts at Click and Park, and
yeah.
yeah,
There was a lot of different folks that liked the paper across, every part of the ecosystem.
it's interesting when you look at where we are today. You think about the paper and how much resistance there was, and now you look back.
I mean,
I will.
like I just said, like I still think that people still like that, right? Like it's very rare. I would say less than 10%, but the fact that there's still a certain like percentage of people who want to show up with like their paper reservation.
I hate to bring my own shit in here, but we're the paper now. The cameras are the paper.
Yeah.
I mean, that's verification, right? I mean, you know when somebody's there, and you know when
there's
they're
still a
leaving,
lot of paper.
and there's a parking session.
Yeah, there's still
how
a lot
much more
of
paper do you? How much paper do you need? Right, that car was there and it left. Here's the time it came in.
Right.
And the time
No,
it left.
I mean that makes sense. I'm not speaking from my own like experience. or
Danny
anything.
wants paper.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
there's a
I
lot of
don't.
Danny does want
No.
paper.
No,
Look, there's a lot of
trust me, I
paper.
don't. No, I don't.
There's a lot of paper in parking, and I think that's fine. My only issue was requiring everybody to use the paper,
Yeah.
and I think the friction of removal of that, combined with mobile, was a big kind of catalyst for us.
No, that makes sense. Like, I'm not saying that I want the paper by any means, but like, I work in venues.
Oh, no, you
I
want
work,
the paper.
I work in venues, right? I work in the venue space, which
Yeah.
you guys are now really, really big in. But like, we get, and you would be surprised how at the amount of requests that we get from venues where they're like, hey, we need a box office option where people can come print out their parking along with their tickets. Like, that's not an odd request anymore. Whereas like when I was in operations, like, especially during COVID and after COVID, where we were like, no paper allowed, and then got into tech where I was like, oh, we're definitely like digital, and then getting back into the ops world where now I work in a space where people still want physical, like paper tickets into the venue, and they want their parking pass. Like, so I don't want the paper, but a lot of people do, and I've seen it more now than I have in a really long time. And so like, that's like, I'm just saying like the movement where it's like, if we could go all digital, everyone's dream, but like, I can understand like how it was kind of a difficult transition.
So, not to shorten what went on between 2010 and 2019, but here we are at 2019. John Conway's driving around Denver listening to Spot Hero commercials. I mean, Spot Hero was an icon. I mean, you basically built a great company on a concept that probably a lot of the old tidy whiteys in the industry were like, oh my God, what is it? You know what I mean? And so here you are in 2019, and then a lot of people were on top of the world, and then 2020 comes around, and March, I think, of 2020 was COVID, and then the whole floor drops out. Like, tell us about that. I mean, because you're still here, obviously, and that's an accomplishment in itself. Anybody in parking that made it through COVID is hats off to you.
I mean, it was brutal, right? I mean, like if you talk to a parking operator or anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was decimated, like whole sectors. I mean, people, why do they park? They're going to the airport. They're going to an event. They're going to work. They're going to a hotel. They're going to a restaurant or visiting a friend or family member. They weren't doing that. And so, I mean, COVID was just brutal. The layoffs, the uncertainty, because it was just such a,
I know we were told it was going to be 2 weeks, and then, I mean, it was unbelievable.
Right, and then it's how long is this going to last? 2
Right.
weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 10 years, right?
So you had to make a lot of tough decisions, right? You had to. I mean, I know we had to.
But what did COVID look like for you, for Spot Hero?
I mean, we had a 98% drop in revenue.
Wow.
Overnight. Events was 100% drop. Ultimately we came back. I mean, there was no ability to view like the light at the end of the tunnel or the silver lining. And I'm a huge optimist. Like the one piece of optimism that I found was when we were, down 98% in April, and then we were down 95% in May. I'm like, okay, when we were 2% of prior year volumes to 5%, I'm like, we've doubled off the lows. And I remember the looks my CFO gave me at the time, and I was like, I know we're in trouble. Okay, I know we're in trouble.
I still recognize that, but yeah.
Look, it was tough because we had to lay off so many members of the team that, to no fault of their own, this is where we were. And talking to anybody in parking, like it was very similar. Like,
right.
Think of, we work with 1,000 different, parking companies. And I think we did a poll, and, I don't have it in front of me, but it was something like 90% of the parking industry had laid off or furloughed nearly 90% of their staff. And I mean, it was just an absolute brutal time to figure out how to navigate through.
So how did you navigate through with those kind of numbers? I mean, some of us, sat on our decks and drank beer, but we still, business owners, had that in the back of the mind, your mind every day. It's like, fuck, I came to the office every day, but it was, I called it I think we had the COVID-9. The only thing that really kept us alive was the past due. We had at any given time, we have so many notices that are still past due. So like, you focus on collecting the past dues, which was hard in that time period, but at least it kept a certain amount of people
very
employed.
difficult during that time,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like you're trying to collect on something that like people can't pay, because not only have like.
But there's one thing I'll say: when times get tough, even in 2008, it's like a psychological thing, I think, with people when they have a stack of bills in front of them, and they have like a $70 bill versus a $700 bill. They pay the smaller bills because it's psychologically it feels like, okay, I've accomplished something, I'm paying something. I think the parking tickets were getting paid.
I don't know. Like I worked in operations through COVID, and I remember it was so difficult when people came to me and they were like, I'm not going to pay this parking ticket. I'm not going to pay my monthly parking. I'm not going to pay my parking ticket. Like, one lady, I'll never forget this, and I think I've actually told this story before, but one lady was like, if you want to send me to collections, send me to collections. She was like, I have to decide whether I want to pay this parking bill over feeding my kids. And that hit me so hard, where I was like, feed your kids. Like, and like, I don't want like at this point, my job depended on going out to collect money from people during COVID off of parking, where I was like, when she said that, I was like, oh my God, like it makes me like pretty emotional to think about it, because I was like, I don't want to be the sole responsibility of that someone doesn't feed their kids. Whether it was true or not, I don't know. I choose to believe that it was true, but because like it was a very difficult time for a lot of people, where you're right, they had to choose over bills, but more so than bills, they had to choose over whether they were going to feed their family, or because they had to stay home with their kids because they couldn't. So anyway, but like it was a very difficult time, and I can only imagine, like you said, on your end, your business went from.
Yeah, and I think, we were also really worried. If you remember at the time, nobody knew where things were going to go. So we were also having to do layoffs at what was like one of the worst potential job markets.
Yeah.
Now, like, a couple months later, it actually got better. There were certain categories that accelerated: grocery delivery, food delivery. There were certain categories that, like, e-commerce had huge tailwinds. And so they were, hiring. And so, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out, well, who do we know that is hiring, that could, take some of the people that, we had to lay off to no fault of their own.
Do you feel like after COVID, with all the lessons that might have been learned, what was Spot Hero like before COVID, and did you do things differently after as things started to come back? Because obviously, I think it took I think obviously when it did start coming back, it was a slow drag. And even the office market today, there's certain parts of Denver that haven't been the same since COVID because of work from home and all of that stuff. So, I think it's recovered, but I don't think totally markets have come back to where they were in the 2019 days.
Oh, yeah, well, certainly there's certain markets where the, number of people going in the office has been, significantly, less, but the percentage of people driving sometimes is actually higher.
Right.
Where the big loser of that has been public transit, right?
Interesting.
If you look at, trends pre-COVID versus today, and car ownership's actually gone up since COVID. And so it depends on the market. Plus, look at, on a day game, a baseball game, and the attendance in certain markets pre-COVID versus, post. Day game, middle of the week, and then look at attendance now in certain markets. So, we would always joke, we're like, okay, if they're going to park, if they're going to work and they're going to park, we're going to get them, and if not, they're going to go to an event.
They're going to go to
because they're working, right?
Right.
So
do you feel like you're a stronger, mightier, maybe smaller from a staff wise, or are you back to where you were?
we're actually still smaller from a staff wise.
That's what for some reason I don't have any data. I don't know your company, but I feel like you have less of a force, but you're mightier and stronger. Is that?
Yeah, we're a multiple larger today than we were pre-COVID. I think the biggest difference was like the forced discipline. Like we didn't have an option. Certain companies I think have the luxury of getting to a certain profitability metric or certain operational excellence, they call it, right, over time.
Right.
We didn't have that luxury. It was forced and thrust upon us. And while it was definitely difficult, ultimately on the other side, Spot Hero is significantly stronger operationally and better in so many ways and disciplined now than
you were
pre-COVID.
before.
Absolutely.
So you feel they were good lessons and kind of made you a.
They're good lessons, but I wish it would have happened over. Couldn't it have
under
unfolded under a different set of circumstances, right?
I totally agree.
Did you start Spot Hero with the intention of selling it at some point, or I'm sure you've been approached before. And if you have, like, what made this opportunity so attractive to actually, take the company that you built from the ground up to hand it over, obviously, not to anybody, to an Uber. But tell us a little bit about that.
Here, I'll answer the first part, which is, did I start the company with the intention of selling it? At the time, it was, hey, I have a lot of parking tickets. There's this idea, can we make something of this? And the first goal was, because I was unemployed, was, can it get to a place where it can pay me a salary where I don't have to get a job, right? So like the evolution of like thought over time was like very different. Like now looking back, it's like, okay, well, we sold to Uber. Is that what your intention was? Well, Uber didn't exist when we
when
we launched.
Yeah,
that's right.
And and the irony is, Uber made it quite difficult for one of the fundraising rounds because they had stolen such a great mind share of, and it wasn't just Uber; it was all ride share, right?
Right.
Compared to parking at the time, and so that's the irony of that evolution over time as well. And have we gotten offers over the years? Yes, but I think a company like Uber, they really understand where software meets the real world and how operations and software together can create interesting things. Where a lot of software companies, it's just software. And, parking isn't just software. You have to understand where software meets the real world. And so that type of DNA had always impressed me. Thinking about a company like Uber, I had always thought they would be the best place for us to go. But this actually happened sooner than I would have expected. I did not think that.
So did they approach you? And
Well, we approached them, but the idea was a commercial deal. Remember, we work with Google Maps, Apple Maps, Ticketmaster, and have worked with distribution partners for getting parking in other apps or interfaces online. And so that was the whole idea with Uber's.
it's interesting because last, I think, September, I was in Hungary, and then I went over to London, and Uber, I took a boat, an Uber boat,
An Uber boat.
Yeah, an Uber boat.
Or Uber Ferry.
Uber ferry, whatever you want to call it. And I remember talking to Mike Drow, and I was like, the Uber is eventually going to get into parking, and so should Google, and so should Apple. I mean, think about those platforms actually got into parking, and you think about payment apps and how easy everyone's got an Uber app, right?
Well,
So now all of a sudden, it's kind of like, and some people would always say, well, they're in rideshare, they're not parking, but why wouldn't they want to be in everything, right? I mean, everyone's already got their app. So,
Yeah.
I take Uber when I travel, and everyone uses Uber. I might have a few drinks, I take Uber, but like I also park my car. And so I already have the app. So it made total sense to me. And I mean, is that kind of the mindset over there of what, why Spot Hero? And
Well, I think when you look at, what is Uber doing? It's go anywhere, get anything, right? And I think, I want to talk about the media for a second, even though I guess you guys are part of the media and with your with your parking media podcast. But so much has been talked about rideshare. I think without realizing or thinking about how big parking is. There are 250 million people with driver's licenses. Car ownership is 92% by household. Parking is a critical part of like how people move around.
Right.
And it's been an afterthought and not talked about as much. And when there's a shiny new object like on-demand valet, remember on-demand valet? That was in the media every day.
right.
And I just remember thinking, how is this what's talked about? There's 250 million drivers. I'm like, where are all the valets, right? How is the future going to be valets?
On-demand valet. Yeah.
Right? And so, certain things, have come and gone. But something that has been there is parking. And I think that Uber recognizes, parking as being important, I think is great for the parking industry.
Well, and I think that like under the current leadership of Uber, right, where he has such a great mindset of trying to encompass not only now parking came after where he was like, we disrupted the taxi industry. Now let's partner with them so that we can get them on our platform. Now the last thing I feel like the last thing on the platform that they needed to bring on was parking.
I think the recognition that parking is important is wildly different than things have been done in the past. And so, there's been a lot of activity in parking, this year. But I think again, Uber has recognized that, and other people are starting to see, how important parking is versus, again, it being an afterthought.
So do you think Uber has created a tension to the industry to where maybe an Apple or a Google might say, look, we can do the same thing, right? I mean,
I don't want to speculate about what Apple and Google are
Right.
going to do. We're also partnered with both those companies and in a number of different ways. But look, I would say like there are a number of companies that see the importance of parking. Parking
Right.
is important, and there were people that were saying that behind the scenes even before it was like, I guess, socially acceptable to say that.
Right.
Depending on which part of the community you were in. But like, I think it's a statement that, a company like Uber is saying that parking is important.
A little late to say it, but huge congratulations on the partnership, the acquisition. What's next? What's next for Spot Hero? And now that you guys are essentially with Uber.
That was going to be my question too.
Oh, sorry.
Still the
No,
question.
but I was going to say how is the plan without, I don't know what you can divulge or whatever in future planning, but like, are we going to be able to utilize Spot Hero from our Uber app? Like, is there integration plans?
Yeah. So look, it was interesting because at the time we were selling to Uber,
Yeah.
I'd never been more excited running Spot Hero. It's been 15 years. I did not like running it during COVID, for the record. And then there were a
Right.
number of years that were, pretty much every year has been very hard and had its own challenges. But I really felt like we had hit a stride together with the team in a way that like hadn't been done before. And so I was really like, wait, is really now the time to sell? And it was really because of how Uber is that I was excited to sell. And today, like, still founder and CEO of Spot Hero. People have asked me like, Mark, are you going away? And I'm like, no, actually, no, I'm not. And you're stuck with me. So you guys
That was gonna be my other question.
you're stuck
What's
with
next?
me.
Yeah.
You guys are stuck with me. I love Spot Hero and I love parking, and I've never been more excited about, Spot Hero than today. And so like, pitched Uber on a commercial deal. We did get that because we are going to be putting Spot Hero, and there will be an option to park in the Uber app, and that will be launching.
That's cool.
And we're going to be doing something with Uber One. And right now, Uber One is delivery and rideshare, and there will also be a parking component, which we're working on. So, those two things to me are super exciting.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm an Uber
Good for
One
you.
customer, by the way. So
You're going to have a lot more than one space, 50 spaces. That's just cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
But but because we're running standalone, and we roll up to global mobility, but because we're running standalone, we get to basically do the things that we've always been doing.
you're still going to be based out of Chicago. You're still gonna,
Spot Hero is headquartered in Chicago, and then
Yeah.
our HQ2 is actually Toronto.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
I don't think that I knew that.
Yeah, we have a lot of folks in Toronto. Yeah.
I'm in Toronto often because we have a venue in Hamilton.
So there's
we'll have to-
obviously-
We've
Yeah.
talked about that
Yeah,
Hamilton.
we
but
have.
You should stop by the Spot Hero
I will.
office
I'll
in
be. Yeah, I
Toronto.
will.
I'll connect you.
So I
Absolutely.
have to go here. Obviously Uber is worldwide, right? So is there excitement about parking worldwide? Is that going to be part of this?
I don't think anything has been decided
Right.
yet. The focus right now is we're in the U.S. and Canada. There's so much to do in the U.S. and Canada, right?
Yep.
Even with all the success that's we've had at Spot Hero,
Yeah.
we're still a small drop in the bucket of the greater parking
Yeah.
Right.
in North America, right?
Right.
So
So like we went from the Chicago bubble to the U.S. to the Canada, and you're gonna. Do you have the option to be picky about expanding elsewhere? I guess is.
I think look, it's been asked over the years.
Yeah.
I think we actually, I think it was 2016, seriously looked at Brazil.
Yeah.
There was a really interesting company in Brazil, but again, there's just so much to do in the U.S. and Canada.
So your
right?
focus is that's
I love that. Like
That's
when
important.
you have
Yeah.
a lot to still do where you're at, there's no need to go elsewhere.
master what you're dealing with and make that great before you can bite off more than you can chew, right? We see that a lot in parking. people look over the fence and go, "Oh, I can do that too. Let's do that too." And
Well, because
then
I don't think
crash
that
and
always
burn,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean, we've seen a lot of companies rise and fall and get distracted over the years.
Distracted is a polite way of putting it. Yep.
Yeah, but look, at the end of the day, it's about value to the different partners and constituents in the ecosystem, right? And so for us, it's people always talk about us being a marketplace of parkers and operators. I always say we have a third leg of the stool, which are the parks and the different systems that help enable the experiences for the parkers,
Right.
but also the operations for the parking companies, right? So to me, I think of us as a three-sided marketplace, three legs of the stool that are very important, for us to ultimately, be the best that we can be, which is, it's complicated enough to have two, right? When you have marketplace, we have three.
That's yeah. So what's what is your, you obviously you've been around for a while. How do you see parking evolving? What is the next?
The biggest, most exciting thing is, cars that will park themselves, right? Autonomous vehicles, I think, are going to be a huge part of parking. And
what is the time frame for that in your opinion, your expert opinion?
You've just this is if John has a trigger, it's autonomous vehicles.
okay, if John has a trigger, how about this? How about Mark? No, we're not going to invest in your company because the future are the cars will be valeted and they won't use spot hero. There's no self park. I'm like, what? And then a year later, when we're racing, no, we're not going to invest in you, Mark, because there's going to be no parking. The cars are
They're
going
just
to
going
park
to drive around and wait, and then you're going to call, and it's just going to show up in front of the restaurant, and you share the car with a block full of people in your neighborhood, and nobody's going to own cars. And I know we've heard it all.
No. So exactly, and so when you say it's a trigger for me over the years, and I've tried, I've spoken with so many people on this where I said, okay, hold on. So today, you've experienced rush hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. You've experienced traffic. So there's a lot of traffic, and
it seems to be getting worse.
okay. So
welcome to Denver. Oh,
right?
Chicago,
Denver.
I mean,
yeah, sorry.
It's getting worse
Any city.
everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Even smaller cities.
so what I've said is I said, okay, so that's when there's a human driver in the car driving it. There's massive traffic. Okay. Cars are parked more than 90% of the time. I'm like, if all the cars were in perpetual motion, there'd be just absolute complete
Chaos.
gridlock, wear and tear on the streets, wear and tear on the vehicles. But also a self-driving car, if it's in perpetual motion, you have wear and tear on the tires, on the vehicle, the charge is drained. None of these things made sense for vehicles to just be in perpetual motion. That's not a thing. So,
Right.
Parking, I think is going to be important.
That's interesting. That's actually a good point.
I mean, that makes all the sense in the world. So that leads me to ask you.
And let's be real. On the record, autonomous vehicles will be a part of our world. I don't know. I just think the timeline, if you reverse back in our industry, I don't know, 4 years ago, the consultants came on and started telling everybody that parking garages are going to be turned into these they're not going to be parking garages anymore. They're going to be drop-off points and all this shit. And it's like, I'm thinking to myself, talking to people, real people where I live and my friends, and it's like, people like kicking the tires and washing cars, and it's not happening anytime soon. And then all of a sudden we saw a shift, right? Now all of a sudden it's like, wow, maybe it wasn't 5 years, maybe it's not 10 years. So that's why I asked the question: when will it really start changing? Us three in this room, when will our life really start changing with autonomous vehicles?
Well, look,
I know they're happening now, and there's cabs and Ubers and.
Well, I think, look, AVs are operating in many cities today, and way more cities today than they were last year.
Yeah.
I think that's only going to accelerate. I don't want to sit here with some prediction because I remember the
Right.
same thing, John, like being there when I'm told your company's going away because autonomous vehicles will be here tomorrow and they'll be in perpetual motion, right? So
Yeah.
I absolutely understand. And I understand the frustration of a lot of different, people in parking who'd heard all these things that they had to do and then it didn't come. But what
Right.
I would say is, well, I don't want to predict the timeline. The reality is it will come at some point. In the parking industry, those parking companies that do and play in where autonomous vehicles are going to reap the benefits. And why would the parking industry not want to be a part of autonomous vehicle parking? If you think about it, what does the parking industry do? We park cars.
Why does it matter
Why
with
does it
somebody
matter?
there?
Why does it
Yeah.
matter? And yes, there are some operational things, right?
So you're kind of bringing a little modification to the perpetual motion is what was really shoved down everybody's throat.
It's not going to be a thing. The perpetual motion,
So
it
what
doesn't.
you're saying is, or not, you're not saying it but what you're saying is, the autonomous vehicle will park like a regular car does.
It might not park like a regular car, but it will park.
It will
like
park.
a regular car.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No,
It
it
does,
does.
yeah.
Yeah, it does.
I think the whole idea of, someone trying to predict exactly where something's going to go or how it's going to be, I think we just have to be ready
Right.
and test things, be open to understanding, what's possible, right? Look, it will be weird. Imagine when an autonomous vehicle pulls up to a valet. What do you do?
Yeah.
Can't do that today, but
Right.
there will be processes and things and integrations where there's some understanding of where that car will park, and maybe
Right.
not. Maybe it won't be a valet. But I'm only bringing it up as like just
So
a
people
concept.
will pull up like
yeah.
they would valet. They get out of their autonomous vehicle, and then that thing drives away and parks somewhere until you're done with
Well, I
dinner,
mean, it's got to park
right?
somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
to park somewhere. That's the thing.
And,
is that-
and that's, yeah, I think that's more realistic than originally it was kind of like the thing's just going to drive around until your dinner's over, and then it's just going to show up at when you're ready to be driven away.
There's something when people talk about how the car is just going to be in perpetual motion or go back to where someone lives, right? And remember, there's two types of these autonomous vehicles. There's going to be autonomous vehicle fleets, right? Then there's going to be autonomous vehicles that are owned by
like
People.
people.
us, yeah.
And there are different use cases, but the whole idea of like, hey, I'm at a restaurant. Why would you you have two choices. You can send your car home, which could be 5, 10, 20 miles away.
Right.
And also, how do you know what traffic's going to be? Traffic can be unpredictable. And even when you know what traffic is, now it takes you are increasing the amount of time when you need your car.
See, I'm buying more into his. This is kind of the perpetual motion thing.
But I
is
mean, but it
where-
makes sense though,
Yeah, it
right?
does.
Like it makes complete
It
sense. And like
does.
this is
I
like a
mean-
big topic of conversation in like bigger like big cities like LA and Atlanta where Waymos are being like deployed.
Imagine the gridlock.
Yeah.
It-
Like they need a place.
I totally
to go.
I totally can buy into this because I'd be like, yeah. I mean, I'm gonna have a few drinks. My
I mean, it's
vehicle's gonna drive
it's not
me
about
home.
buying into it. It's the reality of it.
So there's reality of it. But
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
thing is,
but
it's
people
not.
still have to buy into it to make it a
I
reality.
mean, but it's
right.
the reality of it is like these cars need to go somewhere, whether it's yours, whether it's a fleet, like there still needs to be parking assets to accommodate.
Yeah.
Well, because you could have your vehicle park itself a minute or 2 minutes away from where you are right now, and also where you need it again,
Yep.
or you can send it home
yeah.
in
That
traffic,
doesn't make sense because then
wearing down the tires, putting mileage on the vehicle, draining your charge. Yes, it can charge again at home, but now you've got to pay for power. Like all of these
totally.
things,
I
right?
no. I'm actually more bought in now because it's kind of like okay, I'm going to pull up to the restaurant. It's going to drive over to the parking spot, and then I'm going to click a button when I'm ready to go, and it's going to pull up in front of the
Yeah.
And even the fleets, right? You've got spiky usage, right? In parking, one of the biggest things that is what is the rate? But the rate is a duration. It's a set of time, right? Time of day of the week. There's different rates for events. Airport parking, nights and weekends, right? What is your peak occupancy? Because it's so spiky. When is demand? Well, when there isn't demand, that's when cars will need to park, right? And so I guess I understand there are probably a number of people that are watching this that are like, they're not going to be here. This is not going to be meaningful. And what I'm saying is that's fine. Like, you don't need the entire parking industry to shift in a way that people in the past were telling people in parking.
Yeah.
You need to spend all this
remember
CapEx.
that,
I remember spend all this CapEx, or you're going away, or you need to do all these things like tomorrow. I'm just saying, I think that those companies in parking that are open and creative to figuring out and working with autonomous vehicles, I think are going to be huge beneficiaries of where this ultimately goes.
This is actually enlightening to me.
Well, and this is the thing is that, like, Mark, I want to say
You might have
is that,
changed
like,
my course.
you like
a little bit.
if you, and I'll send you these, but like John has been so against the AV concept, right? But like, you're changing his mind. This is great. Like,
Yeah.
now Conway's going to be on a different path, but it makes sense.
because he's coming at it with a little different angle.
Well,
It's
because
like,
it
because
makes-
we were told years ago that,
Yeah.
oh my God, parking garages are going to be torn down, or they're going to be multimodal, whatever the hell they were talking about. And it was like, they're going to just be driving around and nobody's going to park.
It was so frustrating. Okay. I mean, look, this was also what made, some of our fundraise so difficult, because it was so popular to discuss this perpetual motion thing that just, is absolutely not the case. It doesn't make sense for anybody. It doesn't make sense for anybody.
And road infrastructure, maintenance. It's like a light bulb. They will still need to park. It's Sunday night in Denver, and you don't need a fleet of 50 autonomous vehicles. You only need 10. Where are those other?
Autonomous vehicles need to be cleaned. They need to be charged. Being in perpetual motion is not good for anybody.
That's
a
right.
Fleet owner, a vehicle owner, right, from a personal driver that has full self-driving capability, the roads, the government, every part of the ecosystem, it does not make sense to have vehicles in perpetual motion. It just absolutely does not make sense.
So where are they parking these fleets now? Like in Phoenix, when they have high demand, you got the waste management going on, you got this, you got that.
Look, it's very early, so the number of vehicles is small, right? And that's why when you think about all the trips that need to be taken, where things go in the future versus where they are today is, and could be a misnomer, right? So I think like what folks are doing today with a small number of vehicles is not going to be the same as where things
That's
go
right.
when they're at scale. And which is why I was saying it's important for the parking industry to be open to, well, where could this go? And what are the things that we could test? And John, your product, think about it. What is the credential for getting in and out of a location?
License plate.
The license plate.
Right.
Does a human driver need to be in a car for your product?
No.
So without even realizing it, you've created a product that effectively is for autonomous vehicles. Right?
Oh, now he's look at that.
No, but
Autonomous vehicles, baby.
I know that wasn't the intention.
Right.
The intention was, how do you make it easier for operations, for your operators, and for consumers? Okay. Well, guess what? Because the license plate is the credential, then you don't need a driver in the vehicle.
That's right.
So your product effectively can help enable autonomous vehicle parking. Whether you realized it or not, And you were
he did
triggered
not-
before.
he did
and
not
you didn't
realize
like
this.
autonomous vehicles.
And Mark Lawrence comes to town, and now
I'm going to tell you, he did not realize this before, and now he's going to want to talk about AV all day, every episode, which is
Yeah.
great. I mean, like, this is why we love the conversations that we get to have here, because
Well,
different perspectives.
I mean, honestly, our
different,
product's evolving. I mean, people, it's kind of frustrating because people still view, which is why Paraline came along, but people still view us
Well,
as like a
regardless
ticket
is-
company.
but
And we're starting and stopping transactions. Like, we're doing things to make it less about compliance and making it more, as you said earlier, about making it more convenient so people don't get a compliance notice.
Right. But the same thing that you've built for human drivers can be leveraged by autonomous.
Right.
I was going to say, regardless
Right.
of if your product, your solution is evolving, like the license plate credential,
It could
is
still,
what,
yeah. I
Not-
mean,
it could still.
vehicle
That
DNA,
is what it's going to be.
That's right.
It's
totally
it's
agree.
the thumbprint to a car as it is to a human.
And honestly, where's your vehicle? You know,
But the vehicle DNA and the thumbprint to the car doesn't need to have a driver inside.
no,
of it.
Correct.
I get it. Yep.
So the thing is, there are components, there are ingredients, there are things that already exist in the parking ecosystem that can be leveraged today by autonomous vehicles. And the question is, where does it go? And and again, I would just say to you, John, or those listening, try to understand what could be possibly done or tried versus like what won't work. Because there's a lot of things that were wrong, that haven't worked, that were triggered, myself included. I remember just being so frustrated with the conversations around
autonomous
vehicles. Okay. But I'm telling you, there's something here. And those that are creative or will work with different companies in the space, I think are going to find it very rewarding. And I think it's going to be a really exciting part of the future.
This is the first person that's been able to articulate and.
It's the first person that you haven't argued with about autonomous
Well,
vehicles.
that's because
so
he
great.
came and articulated something that made sense.
I
to
know,
me.
I love that.
Wait, who have you argued with autonomous vehicles?
I think
I
that
wanna
like
see this.
anytime and
I
every.
go
okay,
off.
well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a trigger for me
he's
for a
caused
long
a
time.
little bit of controversy like in the entire space about
Yeah.
autonomous vehicles. But so I think having this conversation around, obviously Spot Hero being who you are, now with Uber in the picture and talking about the AV space, and you can be transparent about this or not, which is fine. Is there any appetite for acquiring parking assets to house like fleets, autonomous vehicles, like giving a space for where everyone has to go?
I don't think anything has been, fully decided in terms of like what, the future holds. There are so many people that are saying this is how it is, this is how it will be. There's speculation and rumors
Yeah.
of what is Uber going to do? What is this company going to do? At the end of the day, as a parking industry, we have to be open to the fact that there are vehicles that will need to park that won't have a human driver in them, right? Where does that go? I don't know, but what I do know is they're not going to be in perpetual motion. And so, trying to, seeking to understand what that looks like, I think is going to be key.
Right.
And
Do you see Uber going deeper in with more acquisitions and parking?
I can't comment on what,
Yeah.
they're going to do or not do. And I
Right.
also, it's been, week 2 for me, right?
Yeah.
So, what are they going to tell me? But,
Yeah.
I think go anywhere, get anything is what Uber is about. And previously, when you open the Uber app, there's rideshare. There will be parking. This is a first, right? In the autonomous vehicle space, Uber is doing an incredible amount of things, and I think it's going to be super interesting to see how it unfolds. But Uber is doing an incredible lot of things.
I think Uber will dominate. I mean, who doesn't have an Uber app?
I don't.
Downloaded on their phone.
To be fully transparent, I don't have Uber,
You don't take Uber? Mm-mm. Who do you use?
Lyft.
Okay.
But it's only because I will say, in full transparency, I had a really, really bad Uber experience a few years ago. And
But do you really hold the? I mean, you can't.
yeah,
hold it.
absolutely. I'm a woman. Like I am a woman
Right,
who
okay.
I ride by myself all the time. And like when someone has a bad experience, it's just a bad experience,
course.
right? And
There-
so that's it.
there-
But
My
like,
daughter, when she
Yeah.
does Uber by herself, will share the ride
yeah,
with
but
me.
like
Yeah.
that was just so that's
Yeah.
There are a number of different
Yeah.
new safety features.
I mean, I will now be because I'll be I will re-download the app.
Sorry
Uber
to
app.
open that
No,
up. But
but
I
I
was
mean,
just
like-
basically saying there's so many people. Like, you go and you see a new parking app every day in our industry, and it's like, who's going to download your shit for the one lot? But when you think
But-
about it, this is
and-
why I kept telling Mike last fall, I'm like, as soon as these people get involved, it's like, what's going to happen to all these other apps? Because everyone's got, like, I'll use an Uber app to park my car.
But
although
I am
getting
I am the
tickets.
type of person who like I am not checking like rates across the board. So whether like I only have like a few different parking, only have 2 parking apps, Spot Hero being one of them. And then like on a like ride share app, I only use one. But
Right.
like I'm pretty loyal because I know what I'm going to get, and I go with that.
Okay, so as we get closer to the end here, what do you want to ask Mark about his worst and best parking story?
Well,
Aside from
yes.
5,000 parking tickets or 500, whatever it was.
Well, some of them were tows. They weren't
yeah,
just like
towing
tickets.
is horrible.
Yeah, when you get there, and you're like, "Where's my car?" Right.
I hate
Look,
towing.
I work. My dad owned companies across New Mexico.
Tow company, right?
Towing
Yeah.
companies,
Yeah.
yeah. And even in parking, like, actually, this was only a few years ago where I knew what I was getting into, but I was like, no one's gonna tow. Like, this property isn't towing.
Mm-hmm.
Got in, like, parked, got towed, and I was like, showed up the next day, and I was like, shit, I can't even contest this, right?
Yeah.
But one of my questions to everyone is what is your best parking story, memory
Yeah.
at that, and your worst, right?
Yeah.
So
I will answer that, but I have to say for the record, towing is not always bad.
it's not, no.
And I have experienced getting towed, and it is not fun. And that is the bad part of towing.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, if there was no towing, what about when you actually needed to park and you have a monthly spot and you can't because someone's there? Or you have a reservation and you go to park there. If there was no towing, now you're missing your event.
Right.
Now you're missing your flight. Now you're missing your appointment. So I just have to say,
Interesting.
there are.
I don't think towing's bad
Yeah.
by any means. Like,
I mean, I think there's less abrasive alternatives, but when you put it that way, somebody's parked in front of my driveway and I can't get in.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, like growing up, like I mean, I grew
Less
up. I grew up in the
abrasive
towing industry,
love
guys.
that.
Like,
John,
I mean,
yeah.
I
Wait,
went.
You grew up in towing? I didn't know this.
Yeah, I grew up with like I went
Her
on.
dad
Yeah.
towed cars.
My dad. I like my entire life. Like my college education was paid by my dad's towing
And this whole
company,
time,
right?
I thought
So-
you were anti-towing with your comments, and I'm like, I have to. I'm like, Dani,
No.
towing can be great.
I'm all about it, but
Yeah.
I'm against it in some ways because of the malice that comes with it. Like, I was just lucky enough to grow up in the industry where my dad was very.
It's
courteous,
always the edge
but like,
cases
but like
that
you
make
never
it
know.
bad.
Like,
You know what I mean?
100%. But like,
yeah.
it's not always great. I am for it 1,000%, just because I grew up in that industry specifically. But my expectations are really high,
Yeah.
like for that. So I expect the type of service from every towing industry that my dad's company gave, and that's not what you get. My car has been towed many times, outside of not by my dad's company, obviously.
Sounds like you have
but
a
like,
personal problem, and you need to start a tow company.
I
to
always say
solve
that.
It. I feel like there's a business here.
No, it's
there's
funny.
a business here.
Danny's towing.
No, so
Danny's discount towing.
So
That's right.
I always
Oh, I
wanted
like
to.
that.
I always wanted to take over my dad's company. I always was
Okay.
like, Dad, I want you to hand the company over to me. And he's like, this isn't a business for a woman, for a lot of reasons, because it's dude, it's rough.
It's abrasive.
It's abrasive. Like,
trust me, we send
like-
out notices and the.
but not
flack-
only
It is-
that, but
it is
it's
definitely a tough-
dangerous.
it
It's
is dangerous.
It's
Yep.
a very dangerous company.
Totally
like,
agree.
and I wanted to take over the company, and my dad was like, "It's so abrasive." He's like, "I won't hand this over to any of my kids." No joke. So he sold it. He retired. Didn't hand it over to anybody. But I really didn't want to do that. So I have like a really big heart for.
That's cool.
Yeah, for the towing like industry and the service. And so when we partner, we don't need to get into this now, but anyway, I was gonna say
go ahead.
I was gonna say when we partner with towing companies across the industry, like I expect a certain service, and so when we don't get that, it's very disappointing because I think that like dealing with cars and customers and you never know what their issue, it's very sensitive.
Well, I think there's some great towing companies out there, and depending on what city that you need a tow
Thank
company, I can make some introductions.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's very near and
we-
dear to my heart. I'm very
okay.
passionate about
No,
it.
but like where you have had these bad tow truck company experiences, we can make introductions to hopefully better tow truck
Well,
companies depending on the
Denver.
city. I don't. Can you tow in Denver?
You can tow in Denver.
You can't for commercial, and then they've made it very difficult with the multifamily now. They have new regulations, so
I have to tell you though that this is
commercial hasn't been able to tow
So what do you
in
use
Denver
the
for a while.
barnacle? Well, the barnacle
You can't
got
even
banned.
boot.
No.
They
Can you-
ban
so
booting.
you
They banned
know-
booting, but can you do the barnacle?
I don't
You
think
can
so.
tow in Denver though. You can tow on commercial,
No, not
Well-
for like if you pulled in and your business is parking and you're paid parking, you can't tow.
but you can tow on.
But if I have like a commercial property and it's just tenants only, yeah, I can tow. But if you're in the business and you have an excise and license for public parking, you can't tow. Go figure, right? So, and you can't boot.
Very touchy subject.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really with me because the only alternative is to send notices, which is less abrasive. But
Which everyone should go the route of instead of towing. Although I'm for the towing industry.
towing under certain circumstances.
John, I know
right?
you want me to say that the
Just
less
say it.
abrasive is always the best. Obviously, I am a fan of what you do, and we're partners.
Right.
But I can't, say that like in every case, like and hurt the tow companies that we work with that
No,
actually
yeah.
help all these customers. Okay, if you think about it,
Right.
like our parkers get helped because of the towing company. Yes, there are mistakes, and that is we take that very seriously when someone who parks with us gets towed and they shouldn't.
And we make
Mistake-
mistakes too
it-
with
it-
the ticketing as well.
That is very upsetting, and we take these types of things very seriously. But what a lot of people don't realize is parkers have a better experience because of these tow companies.
Yeah.
they
Right.
absolutely
It's
do.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, I think my next business venture is going to be in the towing
The tow.
industry. So.
It's the invisible hand.
Danny's discount towing.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
We ain't discounting anything.
Oh shit, I love it.
That's amazing.
We ain't discounting anything.
All right, did we get to Mark's worst
Sorry.
parking story?
Go ahead. Best and worst parking experience.
Well, I mean, the worst parking experience we already covered, which is getting $5,000 worth of tickets and tows.
Well, right. But how and why were you getting, like, how was that happening?
Street cleaning, parking more than a certain number of
And you're
inches
young.
away
he
from the
was
curb.
young, he fucking,
You know,
Well, and Chicago is pretty brutal.
they're
right?
winging
it's
it.
So,
brutal.
Yeah.
My brother he lives in New York
Were
City.
you
He had a lot of
able
parking
to
tickets.
ever contest any of those tickets and get them dismissed?
I tried to contest and lost, and then you have fees on top.
Yeah.
And court costs, and then there's a transaction fee if you don't have a money order. And I'm like, who brings a money order to pay or a check?
Right.
What was the best?
You asked me about Click and Park, okay?
I did.
And I will tell you one of the coolest things, because there was a time when the parks companies, and we're currently integrated, I think there's 372 different parks or enforcement type things. There are more than you
Yeah.
could imagine.
Right.
Okay. But there was a time when none of them would talk to us. They would ignore us.
I remember those.
You remember
days.
that? They wouldn't talk to us.
Everybody, that was lack of collaboration, and this is, yeah.
Okay. And Click and Park was integrated with everybody. Okay. And so what we did with Mike Dro was was Click and Park was the way to interact with
All the
all the
okay.
parks. And this is 2013. So this is 13 years ago. So
Old Mike Dro.
so to me, like, it was so cool to have that interaction. And I remember when you'd go in, it actually had LPR, like years and years ago, okay? But only on the exit, okay? And so like today, license plate recognition, it's more ubiquitous. It's not everywhere, but you have more today, obviously, than
Right.
13 years ago. But I remember getting to the exit and the gate just opened and thinking, oh, was there an error? Because I didn't scan the QR code
Right.
from my phone.
You're like,
And then realizing that it was actually Click and Park.
Yeah, it
So-
recognized. Oh, that's interesting.
years ago, before
13 years ago.
This was actually, yeah.
Mike had told me that. Yeah, he told me about that. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
We talked for hours about that. There were some really fun times.
Well, Mark, it's time to wrap up, but we appreciate. Thank you for making the trip. I certainly feel enlightened now. I have a different perspective on autonomous vehicles.
I feel like we're gonna have to do a part 2 of this with with a very heavy emphasis on AV for John. So
I
because
might become a fan now.
you might write a book.
That's right. I doubt that, but
Wow. So John's a fan of okay.
I didn't go that far. But I'm definitely. I definitely. Like I said, I think I had it in my head. The perpetual thing, all the stuff that was shoved down.
It was
us.
shoved down in a way that was extremely annoying and also was not true.
That's
and
right.
we knew it wasn't true, but it didn't stop.
That's right.
Well, and before we go, because I feel like this is such a we're so lucky to have you, and thank you for making the time and for letting us be your
And thank you
your
for
first,
sponsoring
yeah,
the show.
your-
Yeah.
Happy to.
Yeah.
and letting us be your first interview post acquisition. But if you could give an entrepreneur out there, not even just in parking, but who's just starting, a little piece of advice, because you started with $5,000 of debt almost
And one
in
spot.
parking tickets.
I never
one
knew
spot.
that. It's kind of a cool.
What
One
like,
spot for Spot Hero.
if you could give them just
Spot
a
Shark. Is that what?
easy piece of
Park
advice,
Park
Yeah.
Shark.
what would it be?
I think it would be just like one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
There's no like straight path to like, okay, we're going here, right? And even if there might be that appearance, it's definitely not like that. So I don't know. I don't know if it's advice so much as just like, do what you think is right and put just one foot in front of the other and know that like the path is not a straight line by any means. We've had a long, hard road.
Yeah.
We mentioned COVID. We talked about other things like on-demand valet that made things difficult, or autonomous vehicle discussions. But like, there's been a series of difficulties year after year.
Right.
That hasn't been easy. So I would just say one foot in front of the other.
You're so optimistic.
And be nimble.
Yeah.
Right.
Nimble, optimistic.
So I like what you said. There's no planned straight line. This is the trajectory that we're going because but 6 months in, that trajectory could have changed.
Right, but I think I want to double click on what Dani just said. You said optimism, and that is so important because when someone says, "Hey, I have this idea for this," it's so easy. People love talking about why it won't work.
Absolutely.
Building walls, I call that.
Dani, let me tell you why Dani's discount towing isn't going to work, right? Let me tell you why the discount has to be there. The discount won't be there. Like, people just love to give advice and be real. I'm a realist. I'm not an optimist. I don't. How many realists started companies?
Yeah.
Right? Like, optimism is so important. Whether you're starting a company or being a part of something, like you said, optimism. I think that actually is probably the most important, because otherwise, like, what do you have?
Right. No, I agree with you.
Good for you,
right? Like,
Dani.
well, I mean, I have the same outlook on things, right? Like, I don't ever see the obstacles. I don't ever see the walls. Like, someone could be like, "Hey, it's not going to work because of this." I'm like, "But it's going to work because of this."
Yeah.
like you build a wall, I can fucking jump higher than it. Like, and that, like, being optimistic and having an optimistic outlook. And like you mentioned that early on in the episode where you're like, I'm an optimist.
Yeah.
And I think that is incredibly important, especially when you're dealing with a lot of obstacles. You're like one foot in front of the other. We're not going backwards. We're going forward. It's one foot in front of the other, not one foot behind the other.
Well said.
I love it. All right. Well, thanks, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you making the trip. And that's it, folks. Bleep, bleep, bleep.